It's the Full Court Press with Eric Franson and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, end zone, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on in to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here, all by myself, at least for the moment for today. Eric Franson, he had kind of a last-second thing where he had to dip out, so I'll be here sitting in the chair. I won't be entirely alone. We'll get to that in a second, but just overview of the show today. We got a lot to talk about with Utah State football still. A lot of stuff with Media Day still. Want to pull some clips from my discussion with, or my interviews with Kevin McGiven, the offensive coordinator, along with the defensive coordinator, Nick Howell. A lot to go over with those, a lot of fun conversations. All of those have now been published. We published the videos on the Cache Valley Daily Sports YouTube channel. But before we get too far into that, we have, as we've had for pretty much the entire offseason, we've been having weekly interviews or close to weekly interviews with Utah State men's basketball coaches and players. And we should have on the line Utah State men's basketball guard, MJ Collins. You there, MJ? Oh, no, I turned off his mic. All right, you there, MJ? Hello?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, I messed that up and I had your mic turned off, or the input turned off there. Glad to have you on the show, MJ. Welcome to the Full Court Press.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
So wanted to start off by asking, usually like to ask this of transfers who come into Utah State, just what was your kind of off-season journey going from Vanderbilt? When was the moment you knew that Vanderbilt was no longer where you wanted to be, at least for now? And when was the moment you knew that Utah State would be your next home?
So I pretty much kind of knew, maybe like the last maybe 5-6 games through the season, that, Vandy wasn't the spot for me to come back to, for my senior year. But, just the kind of person and teammate I am, of course, I didn't let, my outside or my inside circle conversations leak to, my play on the court or just how I am as a teammate and a player in general. So I still, stayed positive and wanted to, continue to make a run in March Madness, although we lost in the first round. Transfer portal, I entered that and, I was getting looked at from a lot of high major schools. But, Coach Manning, Coach Robinson, he's a guy that has been on me since high school, considering the fact that, he's from Charlotte. I'm like 20 minutes from Charlotte. So, he recruited me heavily in high school. Of course, he didn't get the opportunity to land me with me going to Virginia Tech. And it's funny because before I went to Vandy, he called me again and was like, yo, how do you feel about Utah State? I believe that was his first year there last year. I told him that realistically I couldn't come to Utah. And, we kind of laugh about that to this day because, he never gave up and he gave me a call again. When I entered the portal the second time, I gave him a chance. Just the visit to Utah State, it reminded me a lot of Virginia Tech, college town, mountains, that type of deal. And this go around, Coach Calhoun, some of his words really stuck to me. And, based off of me and my relationship with Manning, I kind of felt very comfortable and felt like this would be a great place for me to call home. And, luckily here I am, and it's been the last 2 months. The 2 months that I've been here have been great. Then we had open practice. I think it was Monday. A lot of the fans. I connected with a lot of people that maybe I don't feel like I would have connected with. It's just great. Logan is just such a great place, and I could really feel the energy based off of the 200-300 people that was at the open practice. That the basketball team and sports in general is very big in Logan, so that's always great to have.
So what was it like for you coming from, because you're an East Coast guy, or at least eastern part of the U.S., because, grew up in South Carolina, going to preps in South Carolina, then North Carolina, then you're at Virginia Tech, then you're in Tennessee at Vanderbilt. What's it been like for you to come out west? Obviously not the first time you've ever been west, but what's it like kind of starting to set up shop and make a bit of a home out here in the western United States?
It's been very good and calm. That I can say. I went to LA last year for my birthday. I spent my birthday out there, and it was kind of, chaotic, people just everywhere. And then, you come to Utah, a couple states over, and it's very calm. Only thing I can say is everything is so far apart. As far as like Salt Lake is an hour and 30 away. So like things when you want to be touristy and get to do activities, you got to drive a good hour or so to go find those activities. But outside of that, it's been fine. I know the first couple weeks or even still, my sleep schedule is still a little off. Sometimes I might sleep to, 11 when we don't have practice, and I'm like, dang, well, it's one back home, you know what I'm saying? But that's about it. Like I said, my experience for the first 2 months here have been great. I really couldn't ask for anything better. Going into my senior year, the group of guys that we have on the team, they welcome me in with open arms, showing me around and everything like that. So, I really couldn't ask for anything better.
So let's talk about kind of you as a player and what you bring on the court. And one thing, when I first watched some of your film, I thought, well, this guy's pretty, decently athletic. And then I watched you in person, and I was like, well, dang, this guy's pretty athletic. Is that kind of a big part of your game where you use your athleticism, to your advantage?
Yes. Athleticism, I kind of like to use it, put back dunks, rebounding, getting in transition for steals, all types of those things. But, I really, when I'm able to showcase my game, is more of a crafty, get to a old school traditional pull-up, get to the rim for a floater. If I'm really feeling it, I dunk on you if you give me the opportunity, of course. But, coming into this year, my mindset is to just be on straight kill mode. And, I feel like the team that we have this year, it is going to be very needed a lot this year, especially losing Ian. So, being able to team up and pair up with Drake, Kobe King, Mason, it'll be a very interesting, change of scenery for me, and be able to, try to show a different aspect of my game outside of just, he's an athletic defender. So, I'm looking forward to it, being able to show all aspects and variety of my game that maybe I wasn't able to show at Virginia Tech and Vandy. And, of course, SEC is athletes every night, going against 6'8", 6'9", even 7-foot athletes. So, being in the Mountain West, I've talked to a couple people, even watched a couple games from last year and over the past years. I feel like I'll be one of the most athletic players in the league. So, that should be a very good advantage for not only myself, but my teammates as well, with me being on the court.
So there's a few different branching questions I can go with because you touched on a few things I want to ask about, but you mentioned the Mountain West. I know I look back and you've played 2 Mountain West teams before, if I did this right. Do you happen to remember who they are?
I know for a fact we played Nevada last year. And we played Boise State my sophomore year at Virginia Tech in the some Florida tournament.
Yeah, it was a
I believe Utah State won it last year.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's I can't remember which Utah State. Because they won, I think the one in Charleston or something like that a year or two ago. I forget which of these multi-team events they're in. But yeah, you played Boise State. You beat both Boise State and Nevada. I guess continuing off that, do you remember anything in particular about those two opponents? Obviously, you're not going to face many of the players from those two teams. What do you remember about playing Mountain West teams? These are both pretty decent Mountain West teams the last couple of years.
I know both games were pretty physical. Leaving one of Nevada's players last year, he left the game with a bloody forehead, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't think he returned. But it was very physical. I know that for a fact. Nevada's point guard last year was probably about 6'8", 6'9". So he had some length to him. But, yeah, the only thing I can remember is it was very physical. And Nevada and both Boise State had some great shooters. I think Boise State, he was number 11, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was on the draft board maybe that year. I'm not sure if he left or returned. And then Nevada, of course, had two good shooters. And then, of course, their point guard that was about 6'8", 6'9". But the game was both of the games were very physical. And luckily, without our defense and rebounding, that's what got us the win at both Virginia Tech and Vandy.
So I want to touch on some of the other things you're saying in the previous question. You mentioned the craftiness in your game. And when we were at the open practice on Monday, that was something I noticed. There were at least a couple of plays that I remember specifically where you kind of showed that it's not just it was a pure athleticism, as you working against your defender, getting to your spot, hitting a shot. And I guess, and you maybe touched on this a little bit too, coming to Utah State, where do you feel like here you're going to be able to utilize that a little more, where at Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt, a bit more of a key role player type of role when you were there, whereas at Utah State, you might be having a bigger role with the Aggies?
Yes, for sure. Kind of at Vandy and Utah State, kind of at Vandy and VT, everybody pretty much has their picks. And, you coming in, especially me as a freshman at Virginia Tech, I wanted to, just be able to get on the floor because freshmen playing in the ACC wasn't really, kind of a natural thing at the time being. So my thing was I just wanted to make an impact any way I could. And my role on that team was defense. And then, it kind of expanded a little bit more my sophomore year. And then Vandy came and, I was trying to find my feet again with a whole new team. So, it came to the point that, it just happened to be that my calling for that team again was defense. And, when I entered the portal, I was looking to seek something different to where I can be a all-around player and not just, okay, yeah, I'm on this team to just be a defensive guy, which is good, because when you make it to the next level, you might have that role of, just being a 3-and-D player. But as a college athlete, my goal is to make it to that point. So, I feel like I have to be better and be able to showcase my defensive skills, offensive skills, playmaking skills, rebounding, every aspect that to check the box off. That way I can make it to the next level. And Utah State and Coach Calhoun was the spot for me. With Ian leaving, he kind of wants me to fill that role of Ian, and he's instilled nothing but confidence in me. All the coaches have, even my teammates, they're on me every day about, okay, yeah, we need to see X, Y, and Z from you, or MJ, you can do this better, or MJ, you're doing this great. So all the constructive criticism that tough love that they've given me, and even the pats on the back when I do things good. That's kind of built me, and I feel like I'm getting back to my natural self, and just a all-around leader and great ball player is what I feel like I'm going to be for this Utah State Aggies team this upcoming year.
And we're talking to Utah State men's basketball guard MJ Collins. So you mentioned a couple of times Ian Martinez, and I wanted to ask about this, and you kind of brought it up as well, where Coach Calhoun, like, he made a bit of a subtle reference comparing you to Ian Martinez. I think I've made the comparison at some point because there's some similarities between you two. Ian was a 6'3" guard. He's a good scorer. You're 6'4" guard, a solid scorer, and I mean, you both came from high major programs, and Ian obviously had a ton of success. Do you feel like that comparison fits somewhat? Obviously, you aren't exactly the same person, but do you feel like that's a fair comparison, comparing you to Ian?
Yes, 100%. And, during this process, I talked to Ian a lot. He worked out with us the whole first month that we were out here. So, yes, 100%. There is some similarities there. I believe it's a great comparison considering the fact that he did, I think he started at Maryland, then went to Utah, if I'm not mistaken, then came to Utah State. So the transitions are very similar, and he had a successful year under Coach Calhoun, and I plan to do the same thing. Considering the fact that he was under Coach Calhoun 1 year, and I'm going into the same field. So I believe that if he can do it, I can do it, and I'm just looking to be able to impact the team and help us win in any way possible.
So one thing I noticed is looking at the stat sheet is you look at your 3-point percentage. And I know it's not the best numbers. The one thing that Coach Calhoun has had a history of is helping players make quick jumps in 3-point percentage. I mean, I think both Mason and Dexter O'Connell last year, like 2 years ago, they both shot in like the low 30s, high 20s. They both shot over 40% or close to 40%. Do you see yourself being able to make a similar jump with Coach Calhoun?
Yes, most definitely. And just to give you a little bit of backstory, so I've always been a great shooter. I've always been a great scorer in general. But it more so came with rhythm. With me touching the ball, being involved in the offense, knowing that I'm a part of the team, if that makes sense. My last 2 stops, it just, I would have games where I might shoot good from 3 or I might go off, and then, maybe it was just because one of our guys didn't have it going. So, I got to play a little extra longer or some things were ran for me at that point in time. But, like me and Coach Calhoun talk about, like, I plan on shooting right around that 40% range, with me knowing that I'm involved in the offense and that, my teammates are going to look for me. Everything will change for sure. I plan on shooting around 36, 37. And if I crack the 40s, that's great for everybody. So to answer your question, yes, I do believe that my 3-point percentage will be way higher.
So kind of related to this is, being in rhythm and being able to be part of the offense. When I've talked to players over the last year and a half or so, whenever we talk about Coach Calhoun's offensive scheme, they talk about how free and open it is. They usually use the word free. That's one of the things I hear a lot. Have you kind of seen that in terms of Calhoun's offense, especially compared to some of the other offenses you've been part of?
Yes, 100%. A lot of schools, the past 2 schools that I went to was more so, free and get to the layup. Coach Calhoun, like every coach, he wants you to go to your strengths. So for me, he knows I like to shoot the mid-range pull-up, and he's not taking that away from me, which is great. Considering the fact that that's one of the best things that I can get to and feel comfortable with doing. But he hasn't gotten on anybody, from the 2 months I've been here on a shot, whether it was good or bad. You know what I'm saying? He just steals nothing but confidence into all his players, and that's the same with the players. Like, if we was to take a bad shot, nobody's puts their head down or nothing. It's on to the next play, try to get a stop on defense and get it back on offense, one of those type deals. So, so far he's been, just instilling nothing but confidence in us and making sure that we're all getting in the gym and doing what we can do that'll help the team and get into our strengths.
All right, MJ, I got one more question for you before we let you go. What is the thing you're looking forward to most this season?
It's two things I'm looking forward. Well, I'm gonna say three. I want to see what the spec is like. I've heard about it, so I'm very eager to see what the fans in Logan are really like. I'm ready to bring the Mountain West championship back to Logan. With this being our last year in the Mountain West, we want to go out with a bang for sure, and then make a deep run in March Madness. I know, Utah State is a tournament team every year, so being able to push it to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, that's our goal this year, and I believe with the group of guys we have and the coaching staff that we have, it is very obtainable. If we continue to just put the work in and continue to bond as a team and as a program, I think the sky's the limit for this group that we have right now, and I feel like it'll be the best team yet. All
righty, then. Well, we're looking forward to all those things. I'm sure you'll love the Spectrum, and we'll certainly love to see you bring a Mountain West title to Logan and even a deep playoff run. But thanks again for coming on to the Full Court Press. Again, we'll look forward to seeing you this season.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back after this here on the Full Court Press.
Hi, it's Emily, and here at Serenoni, we believe everyone deserves the perfect blanket. That's why we offer a wide variety of sizes and fabrics, from our softest minky to cozy lush, breathable bamboni to textured waffle. So you can find the perfect fit for babies, teens, grandparents, and everyone in between. Established in 2006 right here in Logan, come visit us and find the perfect blanket at our store on 10th West next to iFit. Serenoni, wrapped in comfort, gifted with love.
Make it 5 years in a row. Advanced Heating and AC is honored to be named gold medalist for the best of Northern Utah in the AC HVAC category. They thank you for your support and vote of confidence in their company. You have many choices when it comes to your home's heating and air conditioning system. Make sure you choose the 5-time gold medal winning company, Advanced Heating and AC. Call 752-7272 or stop by their showroom west of DI, online at advancedheating-ac.com.
Express Tires for less.
Safety and comfort on the road are Express Tires' top priority. As a Point S team member, count on peace of mind with an inclusive warranty that includes nationwide protection. Any brand, any size, better pricing. No appointment necessary on the highway at 3200 North Main.
Express Tires for less.
A diamond is forever and is perfect to represent your love. For those special occasions, give her a natural, one-of-a-kind diamond, as unique as she is. Our exclusive brand of Needham Brilliant Diamonds are white in color, high in clarity, and are recognized for their precise cut. These diamonds are natural, untreated, and are the real thing. Show her you care enough to give her a diamond, an investment for generations to come. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. SC Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
While you're making memories this summer, on the lake, in the mountains, or around the fire pit, Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help you plan for days to come. Adams Wealth Advisors loves being your trusted neighbor and believes that smart financial planning is the key to a life well lived. Whether you're nearing retirement or just getting started, let Adams Wealth Advisors build a plan that gives you peace of mind today and tomorrow. Google Adams Wealth Advisors for a free consultation today. Local roots, lifelong guidance.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wee's T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Sports of Logan has a brand new service center that can handle any make, any model 100% of the time. The trained technicians know Can-Am, Kawasaki, KTM, Polaris, Sea-Doo, and more inside and out. And again, they work with any brand, any model. Full stop. They've got the tools and experience to help keep your ride in peak condition. Make sure to Google Young Power Sports of Logan for Cache Valley's premier power sports service department. I want to thank MJ Collins once again for coming on to the Full Court Press and having a discussion with us, with me, about his career, about his upcoming season. 4474 saying MJ sounds a lot like Ice Cube. He's pretty. I don't know if he sounded the way I thought he would. Granted, I've never talked to him. I've only seen him. I don't know if he sounded the way I thought he would, but obviously very mature, very well spoken individual. Sometimes you get all kinds of interviews with college athletes. Some are nervous, some are absolutely confident the way MJ was. Some are well spoken. It's you get all kinds, but MJ absolutely fantastic, and I think in talking to him, I think you can tell that he's going to be a very confident and very impactful player for Utah State, because you've got a guy who's kind of cut his teeth on being a role player and a high level defender, and he's going to come here and he's going to bring those things, and he's also going to bring a scoring punch that you can tell he's itching to show. Like when I talked about his 3-point percentage, he was like, yeah, I'm a good shooter, I'm a good scorer. You know that confidence is there, but he hasn't had the rhythm and chance to really showcase that. And it's similar for a lot of guys. You see these guys that MJ is a former 4-star recruit, goes to a high major school, plays as a freshman in the ACC, which I know sometimes you'll get those like lottery picks that'll play in some of these power leagues. But outside of that, freshmen don't always play as much, or at least as much as MJ. He averaged like 20 plus points a game as a freshman. Started a bunch of games as a sophomore. He was playing, just he didn't quite have the role I think he was looking for, never quite got that. So finally comes to Utah State, and I think he's going to have a chance to really show that. So looking forward to seeing MJ and all that he can bring to the Aggies. Further, a few more texts on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line on 9903. Texting this in after the show yesterday. Says that Bronco press conference was a rough listen. I know he is a good coach, but man, it's boring. Hoping we win a lot of games this year. I mean, maybe I'm weird because I thought parts of it were interesting. I think the part about the house settlement was interesting, although a lot of that stuff that he was talking about, I knew a lot of that, at least some of the basis. I've talked about a lot of those things that he expounded on, but then there was more. He went further, and he started from a baseline. I thought it was an excellent answer for anyone who, if you're not 100% sure, you're kind of lost in the whole NIL, house settlement, revenue sharing. If you're kind of lost in all of that, honestly, Bronco explained it better in 6 minutes than I've tried to in however many episodes of the Full Court Press that I've done over the last year and a half. Bronco did it better in 6 minutes than I have in perhaps hours of trying to discuss all of the changes in college sports. But there were parts of it that were a little, it's like, you realize afterward that we didn't even really talk about the team a whole lot. Bunch of it was the house settlement. Bunch of it was about Bronco himself, his role. Some of it was about his assistant coaches and different things like that. I think there was one where he was asked about the wide receiver group or something like that. But with how long and drawn out his answers were, we didn't really get to go into the nitty gritty. But we'll be able to talk to Bronco and some of the other coaches during fall camp. I know we're not going to get to see the practices. We're not going to get to have a actual fall scrimmage, but there will be availability after practices, and we're going to take advantage of that. We're going to try and talk to as many players and coaches as we can, talk to Bronco more often so that we can get a little bit more about this team, or at least hear from the team a little bit more. They're going to try and hold out on any specifics, but we're going to try and bring you as much as possible about this team until basically a month from now, because I think August 30th is the season opener. It's the 30th or 31st. I forget which. We're a month out from the season. So welcome to the final countdown. 2444 also on the Young Power Sports Logan text line. Says, was it announced at Football Media Day who the team captains are? I would assume that the players chosen to speak to the media, that they are among them, but I'm curious to know who the team leaders are for the season. As far as the players chosen to speak to the media, we chose the players. Like, I submitted a list of guys I wanted to talk to. So as far as the players that spoke to the media, that wasn't really determined by the coaches. That was media saying, I want to talk to this guy. I want to talk to this guy. So that didn't necessarily have any bearing. I would, if you're talking about who spoke to the media at Mountain West Media Days, that's perhaps indicative of something, where you had Bryson Barnes and Gabe Iniguez. I think that would be indicative of something. But I don't know if they've chosen the captains yet, because Bronco was asked about how they select jersey numbers. And I know there was something where, like, players will select some kind of leadership. I don't have that. Well, I think actually, let me see if I can pull up the clip, because I don't think we played this yesterday, where he talked about how the jersey numbers are selected and kind of how the leadership works. So let's go ahead and play that really quick, actually, and hear from that. Give a bit of a hint on how team leaders, team captains are selected, and how that kind of process goes about with this team.
We actually have a system. It's more like the NFL draft, where it's then rounds. And so, but I wait as long as possible to be as accurate as possible. So the team will vote on team leaders here as they get ready to come back for fall camp. And there's been a pseudo structure of that going through the summer, where when the coaches aren't here, team or position group leaders are running the meetings for their teammates that are part of the optional and voluntary structure that happens in July. Anyway, when the team comes back, we formalize that structure. Each position group votes for basically a leader at that position group. We call that, for lack of a better name, the Leadership Council. And then as late in camp as possible, and this will be probably a week and a half in, maybe 2 weeks in, for the Leadership Council to be established, those players then are responsible and tasked with providing me the order in which this team will be qualified to select their jersey. They don't select their number, but they select who has earned the right to pick first. That player then can go up on that draft night. There's usually 2, maybe 3 during fall camp. And in front of the entire team, all the jerseys will be lined up. Their name is called. That player will say something about them. They'll come pick their number, whatever number they want, and then they sit down. And then whoever the Leadership Council has selected as pick number 2 walks up and picks their number. And so it's in descending order based on the values of our program and the leaders of our team. I don't pick them. And so if any player might have an issue, that's feedback coming from their peers to them and where they fit. That process goes on, by the way, at the end of fall camp, because you can't play without a number. It goes on every Thursday all the way through the season. There'll be players that will be week 10 without a jersey, week 11, week 9. That process keeps going until our leadership on our team feels like they're qualified. And qualified represents a lot of different areas. It's not only how they play, right? It's their commitment to our team. It's social conduct. It's academics. It's all the values of our program. And so it's a huge honor to get to select. But the feedback is, man, our team is telling each individual where their current status is. Sometimes that's more powerful in a young person's development than information from a coach.
And so that's a look into some of the leadership. I don't know if it answers your question exactly. I know kind of at the beginning they talked about selecting team leaders pretty soon. To actually answer your question, if it was announced who the team captains are, the short answer is no. They didn't announce that, or at least unless it was in the packet that they gave us that had the roster and all that. I didn't scan through it. I didn't look through it super closely. I'll be looking through it to update my roster spreadsheet that I've got going. But another thing that I wanted to talk about with Utah State football was kind of the offense and defense. We'll see if I have time for both of these, but I wanted to play a portion of the interview that I did with Kevin McGiven. And again, all these are, I linked them on my Twitter and then posted them. I think we'll get them into the podcast feed soon here. But this is about 4 minutes of my conversations, but about 13-minute conversation, I think, with Kevin McGiven and talking about the quarterback position. And a lot about Bryson Barnes being a running quarterback, but some of the things that being a running quarterback can add to the offense. And then also talking about him as a thrower. So here's that from my conversation with Kevin McGiven.
Utah State hasn't really had a running quarterback consistently playing. Like they've had guys like Andrew Peasley, Levi Williams. They like played a game or two, but they haven't had like week one starter. This is your running quarterback, and had that for a whole season, at least since you were around as offensive coordinator. Because you coached Chucky, Kent, DeAndre Burrell. Like, so Utah State had a run of them, and they didn't have one. And now Bryson Barnes. So I guess what's it like having a running quarterback in general with the quarterback?
Yeah, to me, it's always nice to have a quarterback that's athletic. Sometimes I view that as a bonus in terms of what we've done traditionally in the past offensively. But where it's tough for defenses to get +1 in the box because the quarterback is giving you that added dimension or that added number. Someone that can extend plays, someone that can make things happen when things break down. It's always a lot nicer as a play caller, and takes a little bit of pressure off you when a quarterback can do that. And so Bryson has the ability to do those things. Some of those guys that you spoke of in the past have the ability to do those things as well. Yeah. And so, I wouldn't necessarily classify him only as a runner, because I think he's definitely got arm talent and a really good decision maker and kind of gives you the whole package as a quarterback.
Yeah. So I want to talk about him as a passer, but one question is like, you've gone over some of the things running quarterbacks do. Is there anything that is kind of underrated? Because most people think of running quarterbacks as they run sometimes on pass plays when they need to, or you run the read options sometime. Are there other things, and maybe you just answer this question, but like, are there other things that are kind of underrated as far as what a quarterback with athleticism can do for a team?
I think there's a couple different things that, I think there's kind of a feel and instinct to it. Those guys that are athletes, I think guys tend to lean on that sometimes as a crutch, and sometimes, maybe you're playing outside of the offense a little bit when that's the case. And, but those guys that, are able to tuck it and run and do it at the right times, because of, and it becomes more instinctive or more of a feel thing after they've gone through a progression or whatever it is, and it's a little bit more in a timely manner. And when the look really presents itself, I think that's, one of those things that add to a running quarterback's ability. And then I think their ability to kind of keep themselves out of harm's way because, how to take hits, when to run out of bounds, when to slide, that, doing those types of things that, in terms of protecting themselves, and still being an effective runner. I don't know if we'll be able to talk Bryson into sliding or going out of bounds, but he's a tough kid and he likes to work for those extra yards and so.
So some quarterbacks seem to like not know how to slide. Is it just a matter of having quarterbacks that have played baseball?
I don't know. Yeah, some of them look pretty awkward doing it. It was something that probably need to talk to Coach Johns about instilling into his practice.
So you touched on Bryson Barnes as a thrower, and people have kind of branded Bryson a bit of runner because his passing numbers they're not bad, but they're not super spectacular. But what does he bring as a thrower? Because he's not helpless back there. He's had some good games throwing, even at Utah State. What do you see from him, his ability to sling the ball around? Yeah, the biggest thing, he can make every throw effectively that we have in our offense. And he can distribute the way that we want it to distribute. A lot of that comes with his decision making as a passer, his ability to read defense, his ability to diagnose and collect information and do those types of things. And so, I kind of equate those things to, being a good passer. Definitely has the arm talent to do it. I think he has the level of accuracy, repetitive accuracy, and consistency as a thrower. At times maybe, hasn't been asked to do that as much or hasn't, that part of his game hasn't been leaned on as much, where he definitely has the capabilities to do those things with both his physical arm talent and what he can do with his, his ability to read and diagnose defense and distribute the ball effectively.
So again, that was from my conversation with Kevin McGiven yesterday. He had to take a break, but I want to talk about that a little bit and then also try and get into a portion of my conversation with Nick Howell discussing the Utah State defense. That's all coming up next here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
At Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning, Feel the Love is more than just heating and cooling. It means giving back. 5 complete HVAC systems will be donated to a deserving person or family. Feel the love and nominate that person or family in need at mtnvalleyhvac.com. Nominate prior to September 1st, 2025. See website for all details.
The patio is open. The chips are endless. Drinks on tap. You know it's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant, gold winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. That's a complete lunch for just $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and massive burrito, just $7.95. The patio, the sun, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th Weston Center in Logan.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204 today. See store for details.
They can put your logo on it because that's what they do at the Logo Shop. They can put your logo on anything from pens and mugs to golf balls and clocks. The Logo Shop is also the place for your team shirts and uniforms. So if your team wants to look good, call the Logo Shop and order your team uniforms today. Colors, logo, and everything else looking just like you want it to. Get your team shirts and uniforms from the Logo Shop. Call them to get a bid or just drop by 40 South Main in Logan.
The Logo Shop. Logo Stop. The Logo Shop.
Hi, this is Robbie with LSS Insurance. If you're about to turn 65, the Medicare phone calls, mailers, and emails can be unreal. Out-of-market telemarketers simply do not understand Utah, Idaho, or your individual situation. We have real answers and real solutions with local help. At LSS Insurance, we are your health insurance specialists. Call us 752-9493. Having local help makes all the difference, and there's no cost to you. Call 752-9493 or visit lssins.com.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Franson and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
Mountain Valley Heating and Air wants you to feel the love as they give away and install 5 new furnace and air conditioners to families in need. They're donating HVAC systems, equipment, materials, installation services to help deserving families who need a little extra support. And they need your help. They need you to go nominate a family in need today. And nominations are open through August 31st, so about another month or so. And at least 5 families will be selected between September and October. And you can nominate somebody by going to mtnvalleyhvac.com. Click the Feel the Love tab. You can go nominate someone again. Open until August 31st. That's mtnvalleyhvac.com and click the Feel the Love tab. So, drawing back to the conversation that I played last segment, again, it's kind of this interesting thing that I keep thinking about, that I keep going back to. How Utah State can try and use Bryson Barnes as a weapon where you're able to use his legs. And I remember last year I poo-pooed the idea of Bryson Barnes being an effective runner. And I kind of looked like an idiot at the end of the season when he ran for like 350 yards in 2 games. But now we look at what he's been able to do, what he could do. Mind you, he's not going to run for 100 yards every game. He's not Lamar Jackson out there. But he's a guy that can be effective. And I think they're going to utilize that a lot because I think they're going to have to. I know Kevin McGiven was fairly praiseworthy of Barnes as a passer, but we do need to be a little realistic. Like, there are areas where Bryson Barnes isn't going to be elite as a passer. There's some areas where he's might not even be good as a passer. Kind of that one particular area is as a deep thrower. I went over this in my article on Cache Valley Daily like a couple months ago, I think, where I talked about what a Utah State offense led by Bryson Barnes would look like. And I highlighted portions from the San Diego State game as to what some of these plays could look like. But one thing I did note in that game, in that article, was Bryson Barnes's deep throwing capabilities, and they weren't particularly good. He struggled. The games where like he threw the most deep, I think it was against Utah or USC, and he had a bunch of interceptions in those games. And I think it was Utah because they hamstrung him in the USC game. So, Bryson Barnes isn't going to be this fabulous field general, but I think where he's not a bad thrower, and I think I'm kind of taking the middle ground. He's not a fantastic thrower. He's not a bad thrower. But honestly, I think Kevin McGiven, what he said about Bryson Barnes can make every throw in their offense. And that's the most important thing. He can make every throw in their offense, and that's going to ultimately be the most important thing. He doesn't need to go out there and be Jordan Love. He doesn't need to have the record-setting seasons of Jordan Love or Logan Bonner or Chucky Keaton. He needs to go out there and run the offense effectively, and I think he's capable of doing that. And I think they're capable of having an effective offense with him and with Javen Jacobs, who in my conversation with him and later in that discussion with McGiven, we talk about Javen Jacobs as a receiving back. I think you've got a guy in Jacobs who has the potential to be a very effective receiving back. Could even split out wide as a wide receiver. Heck, I think wasn't he a converted wide receiver, or am I thinking of somebody else? We had this discussion about Javen Jacobs a couple of times already now. But I think he was a converted wide receiver. Now that I try and remember it, I could be wrong though. But you have a guy who can be a very versatile back. You got Miles Davis, who, as Kevin McGiven noted in that same conversation, he's a bit of a one-cut back. So you've got some versatility in that backfield, or diversity in that backfield. That's the better word. And combine that with the wide receiver core that they have. Again, you can check out my conversation with Kahanu Davis as far as the wide receivers in that group. So I think they can have a good offense. Are they going to be as good as last year? It's a bit of a stretch because they produced a lot of points last year. But I'd be surprised if this was a bad offense, because I think they've got some ways that they can surprise people and ways that they can beat defenses, even if those defenses are prepared. All right, so we got to take one more break. I don't know if I'm going to quite have time to play the full clip that I have for my conversation with Nick Howell. We'll try and discuss some of those things coming up next, and we'll try and get to that conversation maybe tomorrow here on the Full Court Press. But first, a break.
When grid failures and severe weather cause power outages, your business might take a hit, or at home, you could lose your refrigerated food storage. Generac Standby Power Solutions help ensure an uninterrupted power supply. Generac is the #1 brand of standby generators. Get yours today from Golden Spike Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Girls, insist he take you to Jarek's. Picking out your wedding ring is an experience you will never forget. Come to a place where the mood is right and the setting is perfect for romance. Jarek's Fine Jewelry in Logan. The perfect collection of memorable designs, classic creation, and modern marvels. If you want an intimate, romantic experience you will never forget, then insist he takes you to Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special, make it Jarek's at 930 North Main in Logan.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special, make it Jarek's.
Hello, Cache Valley. Did you know the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan has bike and tube rentals? That's right. The Sportsman has kids' bikes, bikes for cruising around town, hardtail mountain bikes, and full suspension electric bikes for rent. If you haven't ridden an e-bike, you are missing out on so much fun. We can even give you ideas where to ride. If you need to rent a tube or many tubes for Bear Lake, Hiram Dam, or the Narrows in Idaho, we have those too. Come to the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan for your summer bike and tube rentals. Tons of parking in the back.
Honey, the garage door won't close again.
It's the sun hitting the sensors. I just fixed this.
Toilet paper rolls are not a fix. Is there something we can do?
Actually, yeah. Advanced Garage Door has these new sunshades that block direct light from the garage door sensors. Let me give Mason a call.
Is your garage door not closing? We can fix that. Call Advanced Garage Door at 435-255-6725. That's 435-255-6725. Or visit us at advancedgaragedoors.com.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the 5th year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
July is the month of backyard barbecues, fireworks, and parades. With all the hustle and bustle, it's important to remember the true reason for celebration: independence. At Primrose Home Care and Hospice, we're devoted to helping you and your loved ones stay independent. Our bodies experience lots of changes in our lives, but that doesn't mean we have to change our life. Primrose is dedicated to helping you maintain a healthy, active lifestyle so you don't have to give anything up. After all, independence is our way of life. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call 787-1369. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, we're your home team.
The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
The weather is hotter, and Napa has what you need to be prepared. Napa Legend and Napa AAA batteries get a $25 rebate on Bosch lithium-ion batteries. They can even test yours to make sure it actually needs to be replaced. You get fuel treatments from Standardine, Howes, and Seafoam. It's all on sale for $8.49 a can. Mention this ad that you heard it on the Full Court Press on 106.9 The Fan, and you can get 15W Premium Diesel Oil for $11.99 a gallon, cash and carry only. And if you need a local mechanic that you can trust, visit one of your locally owned Napa Auto Care Centers. Find one by visiting NapaOnline.com or by calling your local Napa store. And now these are folks from our community serving you with expertise and integrity. And each of these Napa Auto Parts locations are locally owned, or each of the care centers are locally owned, just like the Napa Auto Parts locations, all the way from Preston to Providence. Finishing things up here on the Full Court Press. Thanks for sticking with us for the full hour. If you have any last second thoughts, feel free to text the Young Power Sports text line, 435-339-0321. Wanted to get into the conversation that I had with Nick Howell, but there's unfortunately not enough time. I talked to him about kind of the one of the things we bring up with defensive coordinators is, do you run a 3-4 or a 4-3? And I threw the thought I had out there that the 4-3 is basically now the 4-2-5, and the 3-4 is now the 3-3-5. And he seemed to agree with me a little bit. And we'll play this conversation tomorrow because I want to play it out there, because then we talk about how things go with Utah State. And he offered a bit of insight into how they're going to play that. Didn't necessarily say exactly which formation, but the fact that they're going to have, again, that kind of hybrid position. They call it the nickel. I know typically that's just been when you add in another, you take out a linebacker and you add a different player, that's usually the nickel back. But the nickel in their defense is essentially the striker that Utah State has had under other defensive coordinators, and that other teams have a different name for. Like some of the schools here in Cache Valley run a 4-2-5 or a 3-3-5, and they have a name for that. Again, that kind of hybrid position. Although Utah State doesn't necessarily have a specific player that they recruit for that position. Again, that comes from that conversation, which, I mean, you can go listen to it now. You don't have to wait until tomorrow, but we'll have that discussion a little bit more tomorrow about the defense. And I think the versatility, what will hopefully be versatility from this Utah State defense, because that's what you need. You need versatility and action, not just like guys that are tweeners that you say have versatility, but true versatility. The ability to play physical when you need to play physical, the ability to have speed where you need it. Those are the things the defense needs, and we'll certainly have to see if Utah State has those. 2947 saying, what record does Logan Bonner have other than the 7 interceptions in one game? Also, what does our running back chart even look like? Well, as far as I know, I think in the 2021 season, Bonner either got one or both of the single season yards and single season touchdowns records. I believe Chucky Keaton rewrote the record book. Then Jordan Love rewrote that same record book as far as passing yards, passing touchdowns. And I believe Logan Bonner did the same. I'd have to go double check, but I'm pretty sure he has both single season passing yards and single season touchdowns. And as far as the running back depth chart, your top three, I don't know who starts, but your top three, I believe, is going to be Javen Jacobs, Miles Davis, and Derek Jamison. Those are the guys that I would expect to be getting most of the carries. As far as how the split works out between all of them, I'm not 100% sure. I really like Javen Jacobs as far as his potential, but Miles Davis also has a decent amount of experience. I would think those two are your top two, and maybe Derek Jamison surprises, but we'll have to see exactly what. Those are going to be your top three. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for more local sports talk here on 106.9 The Fan.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Mark it down, frame the box score, July 29, 2025. The day Shohei Ohtani looked human. That's right, baseball's modern-day unicorn, three-time MVP, home run champ extraordinary, stepped to the plate 5 times last night and left with a big old donut. 4 strikeouts and a whole lot of confused fans rubbing their eyes like they'd just seen a UFO. A rare mortal moment from the game's most unstoppable force. And yet, in classic Hollywood fashion, the Dodgers still managed to beat the pesky Reds. That's what happens when you're the third highest payroll in baseball. Ohtani may have whiffed, but the rest of the cast picked him up. It proves 2 things. First, the Dodgers can win in any fashion, even when their superhero forgets to wear his cape. And second, Shohei Ohtani, it turns out, is just like us, at least for one night. So no, the world isn't ending. Shohei just had a bad Tuesday. Somebody check if pigs are flying anyway, just to be safe. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.